Welcome to Smoky Mountain Off-Grid. As the name implies, our homestead is on the top of the Smoky Mountains. And it's off-grid. It doesn't mean that we communicate with the outside world. It just means that we're trying to live in the most self-sufficient manner that we can. So if you've watched previous videos that I put out, you know that politics is the cause, is what causes all economies to fail. And by extension, the greed and corruption in government. So, of all of the variables in our existence as people, there's only one thing that never changes, and that's human nature. And I'll leave you to pontificate about that and form your own opinions. At this point in the series, we've determined what kind of economic system we operate under. That being a blend of socialism and capitalism, with the politicians and government establishment pushing really hard towards socialism. And the reason for that is obvious, because it gives them more power, and with more power comes more money. So, and I'm reading my notes here because I get sidetracked. And if I don't stay to the script, then who knows where we'll go. You know, talk about sailing down the Tennessee River to the Gulf of Mexico. So here we go. You don't have to spend a whole lot of time studying economics to be able to understand the key elements of the economy that'll help to determine your path in life. You already know the basics in your personal economy: how much money you make, how much money you spend, and what you spend your money on. Your income is based on the demand for goods and or services you provide, which is determined by the market and people supplying those goods and services. In other words, supply and demand. If you're a house painter in a community of vinyl-sided houses, the demand for your services is going to be very low, and thus your income will be very low, if at all. But by the same token, if you live in a community of wooden clapboard houses or wooden sided houses that requires painting every 5 years or so, you'll be in big demand and your income will be very high. So how do you know what goods and services will be in demand? Well, you could do an in-depth historical record search on supply and demand, making sure to include technological advances, societal changes, as well as population density, political climate, weather patterns, money supply, government regulations, tax rates, interest rates, solar cycles, employment statistics, deflation, inflation, stagflation, a changing role of the Federal Reserve, etc., etc. In other words, becoming economics majors in college so that when you graduate, you can be a waitress. That's a pun. All right. Or you very simply um, could look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Um, remember, ooh, remember that natural resources, the processing of natural resources, and the service provided to the maintenance and processing of natural resources are the only sources of wealth. Water, food, shelter are at the base of the hierarchy of needs because you can't live without them. My system of threes is an easy way to remember the foundation of Maslow. You can live 3 minutes without air, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food, and 3 seasons without shelter. Without these things, you will not survive. Combine the sources of wealth with the hierarchy of needs, and you are assured to succeed in life, regardless of the economy or the government. Now, the Federal Reserve is going to make an announcement tomorrow. And again, try to control the economy. And we'll talk about that because it's a timely issue. And because the Federal Reserve has never been right about anything that they've ever done in 107 years. I don't know what they're going to announce. I don't know what they're planning on doing. But I can assure you that not only is it wrong, but it'll hurt our economy and cause additional hardship. So, I guess it's in the vein of economics, but we'll take a little side trip and discuss what tomorrow's issue is going to be with the Federal Reserve. I know that there's, time lag between the videos and, it just depends on what I'm up to. And I've been pretty busy lately. So, that's part of the problem in knowing what's going to happen in the economy. And that's how to prepare for that. And we've spent years trying to get into a position where we can handle whichever way the economy turns. And I can give you a little bit of an example of that. Right now, I'm sitting in the house in town, with all of the amenities, central air and all that kind of stuff. And that's the reason we're here. We're old and it's too hot to work outside. For for old people like us. And so, what has happened recently in our economy is that we're starting to see asset prices go up, especially in commodities. And the way that we determined the value of our off-grid homestead is that we were willing to pay for the lumber that we could get off of the land. And that's how we valued what our price was that we would offer to the owner of that property. And at that point in time, uh, that was 13 acres of poplar, pine, and sweet gum. So, um, we bought that property for what the value of the timber on the property was. Not that we intended to cut it down, but that was how we gauged what we would do. Now that was a cash deal, and we got the property. So today, because of the changes in commodity prices, the very thing that I've been forecasting for years, the value of our property just from the lumber, just from the timber on that property has more than doubled. Because the price of lumber has gone from an average of 30 to 45 cents a board foot to over 83 cents a board foot. And we have a sawmill. So you see, no matter which way the economy goes, no matter what happens, economically, we're prepared. Are you? All right. One last thing. Remember this if you don't remember anything else. Human nature never changes. It's the only thing in the whole world that never changes. Because coming up in subsequent videos, is going to be cycle theory and, that kind of stuff. Human nature never changes. All right. So that's all I got for this time. So until next time, toodaloo.